the real reason Jessica Lange walked away from AHS. I used to think Jessica Lange left American Horror Story because something dramatic happened behind the scenes. Hollywood usually trains us to expect scandals. But the more I dug into her interviews, the more I realized the truth was almost the exact opposite. She didn't leave because she was unhappy. She left because, for once, she knew exactly when it was time to stop. That surprised me, because very few actors walk away while everyone is still asking them to stay. Jessica Lange has spent nearly 50 years proving she could disappear into almost any role imaginable. She frightened audiences. She broke their hearts. She won 2 Academy Awards, multiple Emmys, a Tony Award, and built the kind of career most actors only dream about. Yet somehow, an entirely new generation discovered her through American Horror Story. And honestly, she could have stayed there for years. Ryan Murphy certainly wanted her to. Fans definitely wanted her to. So why didn't she? The answer actually begins decades before American Horror Story even existed. Whenever people remember Jessica Lange's career, they usually think of the awards. I think about King Kong, not because it was her greatest performance, because it almost convinced Hollywood she'd never become a serious actress. She was practically unknown when producer Dino De Laurentiis chose her for the giant remake. No famous acting school, no powerful connections, just a young woman who walked into an audition believing she had nothing to lose. That confidence came at a price. Critics were brutal. Instead of celebrating her potential, many dismissed her as another model who happened to land a movie. Imagine hearing that at the very beginning of your career. Most people would have accepted the label. Jessica Lange didn't. She disappeared for several years. Not because nobody called, because she decided if she was going to stay in this business, she wanted to earn respect the hard way. That decision changed everything. When Frances arrived in 1982, audiences suddenly saw a completely different actress. I've watched clips from that performance, and even today they're difficult to shake. She wasn't pretending to suffer. She seemed to live inside the pain. The role demanded so much emotionally that Lange later admitted it nearly overwhelmed her. Then something incredible happened. That same year, she also appeared in the comedy Tootsie. Completely different performance, completely different energy. The Academy rewarded both. 2 Oscar nominations in the same year. Only a tiny handful of performers have ever accomplished that. She won for Tootsie. She lost Best Actress to Meryl Streep. Oddly enough, Lange never seemed bitter about it. That's something I admire. She always sounded more interested in the work than in the competition. Years later, another unexpected chapter appeared. Ryan Murphy called. Television wasn't really where people expected Jessica Lange to go, especially horror television. She only intended to stay for 1 season. That was the original plan. She thought it would simply be an interesting experience. Then audiences met Constance Langdon. Everything changed. Suddenly, Jessica Lange wasn't just an Oscar winner. She had become the heartbeat of an entirely new franchise. Every season felt different because every character felt different. Sister Jude, Fiona Good, Elsa Mars. Honestly, I don't know many actors capable of making 4 completely unrelated characters feel equally unforgettable. Ryan Murphy understood exactly what he had. Instead of simply handing her scripts, he reportedly began building seasons around conversations with her. Think about that for a second. That's an incredible amount of trust between a creator and an actor, which makes her departure even more confusing. If the creative relationship was so strong, why leave? The answer is surprisingly simple. Time. Not ratings, not arguments. Time. Jessica Lange eventually admitted something that almost sounded ordinary. Filming American Horror Story required around 6 months of her year. Every year. For 4 straight years. When I first heard that, I actually stopped for a moment. Half your life. Gone. Year after year. She compared it to performing in a long Broadway production. Rehearsals. Filming. Promotion. Then you start all over again. Eventually, she realized something. She wanted her own life back. That's it. No feud. No dramatic exit. She simply wanted more time for herself. I think that's incredibly refreshing. Hollywood usually celebrates people who never stop working. Jessica Lange celebrated knowing when enough was enough. Even after leaving, she never criticized Ryan Murphy. Actually, she praised him. She often said those first 4 seasons gave her extraordinary characters to play. She felt creatively fulfilled. Her story inside that world had reached its natural ending. Not every ending needs to be messy. Sometimes they're simply complete. That's a lesson Hollywood doesn't always understand. Interestingly, Murphy wasn't quite ready to let her disappear. Several years later, he convinced her to return briefly as Constance Langdon. And the way he did it says a lot. He didn't tempt her with money. He tempted her with scenes, long emotional conversations, complex monologues, character moments. He knew exactly what interested her. She came back, finished Constance's story, then quietly stepped away again. That tells me their friendship survived perfectly well. In fact, they later reunited on Feud, proving the relationship had never been damaged. Over the last few years, Lange has spoken even more honestly about why she's become increasingly selective. She believes modern Hollywood often puts business ahead of storytelling. She misses movies that allow actors room to breathe. Room to hold a moment. Room to let silence matter. When she talks about filmmaking today, you can almost hear someone protecting an art form she fell in love with decades ago. And honestly, I understand what she means. Not every scene needs to move at lightning speed. Sometimes a single expression tells the whole story. Looking back now, I don't think Jessica Lange really walked away from American Horror Story. She walked toward something else.